Hi, and welcome back to You Can Make That. Tonight we're going to do a special holiday edition of the show. We're going to make a whole bone-in roasted lamb in celebration for Easter. Lamb is one of my favorite meats and probably the meat that people feel the most unsure of what to do or how to make it, although it's incredibly popular in the springtime and especially at Easter. The things that we're going to do tonight really make this lamb leg both special and, of course, tasty. So let's do it together, and I'll walk you through the whole process of making a show-stopping, full roasted lamb leg. Tonight, we just need a few key ingredients to really make a spectacular dish. So let's go see what we need for our mise en place. Here's what we're going to need for tonight's dish. Of course, we have our bone-in lamb shank. As you can see, this is absolutely beautiful piece of lamb. This one's measuring a little under 6 pounds, and when you get these from the butcher, they can really go anywhere from 5 pounds to 8 pounds. I usually get a 6-7 pound one for 4 more people, but tonight it's just gonna be 2 as we're all quarantining, so this just under 6 pound piece is gonna be more than enough. We'll need rosemary here. As you can see, I've already taken it off of the stem. You'll need about 6 total sprigs of rosemary. I took off 4 sprigs here, and that gives you 2 large heaping tablespoons full. We have garlic, 6 big cloves that I have already smashed, about 2 ounces of anchovies in oil. You can do just that whole 10, or if you get one of these awesome little jars, it's perfect. It's just under 2 ounces, but will be totally fine. We need 1 stick of unsalted butter, so that's about 4 ounces. A lemon, for which we'll use half. White wine measuring about 1.75 cups, and then plain ground pepper. And then for tools outside of the normal roasting rack, roasting pan, knife, and so forth, you're gonna need a mortar and pestle, or you can utilize a food processor. Okay, so let's see how we put everything together. We're gonna make 2 different pastes for the lamb tonight. One is a little bit drier of a paste that we'll use to stuff into the cavities we'll create on the lamb leg. And the second is a more wet paste that we're gonna spread on the outside of the lamb leg. So let's get started on both. First, let's go ahead and preheat our oven to 425, and we'll start to make that first paste. To make your life a little bit easier, I recommend putting all of the garlic and the rosemary into a food processor and just blending that a little bit until the rosemary is really small and the garlic has been crushed to a nice little consistency. And then take that out and put it in your mortar and pestle here, so that it's already kind of pre-chopped, but it's not super messy in your food processor, which I know seems a little bit weird. That's what they're for, but I don't like it. Then let's go ahead and add all of that from the food processor into your mortar and pestle, and then take about 2/3 of those anchovies, place them in, and we'll start to grind them together into a dry paste. Okay, so I've gone ahead and drained the anchovies of the oil. Just out of it. You don't need to make them dry or pat them down or anything. And then added 2/3 of the tin, or in my case, that small jar of anchovies, into the mortar and pestle. And we're just gonna go and start really crushing these together to make a nice dry paste. Don't be afraid to hurt. You're not gonna hurt it, but you really wanna get this incorporated and delicious. Okay. If you've never used a mortar and pestle before, they're a really great kitchen tool. They're a little expensive at first, but you can use them for so many different things. You know, mixing a piece like this, or if you make one of those bigger ones, it's a really fantastic and fun way to make guacamole. Who knows, we may still be in quarantine by that time, and then we'll have to have a nice Cinco de Mayo festivities. All right, so this is almost done. Okay, good, actually, this looks really good. So your paste should look like this, where it's really nice with all the ingredients incorporated and mixed together. And then we're going to clean off the pestle and set set it aside and then go and prep the beginning of the next step, which is piercing our lamb flesh so that we can get all of this great tasty paste inside. Okay, so I brought over the lamb, and what we're gonna do is use a small sharp knife and just pierce about anywhere between a dozen and 18 slits of a 1/4 inch into the lamb leg, going through the fat and through that skin there so that we can really get into the meat. But you don't need to go super, super deep. So let's just look at that. See, kind of pierce it there, like that. All over. All right. So once you've finished piercing the lamb leg with all of those little cuts, what we're gonna do is take that drier paste that you have in your mortar and pestle and start stuffing it really nicely into those cavities. You're just gonna stuff it in all the cavities that you created. Don't forget, don't be afraid to kind of get your hands in there and really put those pieces deep inside. We're gonna do that all over in every cavity that you created. Okay, so I've just finished stuffing all of the cavities that we created with that great dry mixture, and now we're going to move on to that second paste. And what we'll do is take, take the last 1/3 of the anchovies we had and make those in the mortar and pestle again, just nice and smushed out, that, and then we're going to take that butter that we brought to room temperature and mix that together. I had actually softened it a little bit in the microwave to speed things up a little bit, but be careful you don't overdo it, because if you do, you'll have to put it in the freezer to get it solidified again, because you don't want very runny butter. You want a little bit of solidity so that it can actually mix well with the anchovies. So let's mix those together. See how mine's a little bit, probably too soft still. That's okay. I'll just make it work. Okay, so now it is a sort of buttery pastiness here. And we're gonna go ahead and put this lamb leg on the rack and then put the butter on the outside of the lamb. So I often use, and I don't have a roasting pan sometimes, I can use a sheet tray under a wire rack. That actually came from when I lived in a tiny apartment in New York, and none of the roasting pans I could find were small enough to fit in my oven at the time. So a sheet tray worked. Yeah. What happens when you have tiny apartments in New York? Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and take this butter and just rub it all over that leg. All over. Don't forget any parts of it. And kind of get the inside too. That's doesn't have the fat, but is good. So if there was any question on whether this needed oil, I hope this answered it, because clearly you don't need oil with all of this butter. Okay. So now that that is done, we're going to cut that sprinkle it, squeeze it all over the leg. All right. Take that one in. Roll it out a little, just soften it, and cut it in half. And then squeeze it all over the lamb leg, like that. You get all the lemon juices. It's okay if you get some seeds in there. You can always fish them out later if you make a sauce from this. Over that. And the last thing we're going to do on top of the lamb leg is to put fresh ground pepper. So we don't need salt because you're going to get a lot of salt from those anchovies. We just need the pepper. And then that's the preparation for the top. Let's take those seeds off of the lamb itself. There. And then we're going to actually take that white wine and pour it in the base. Now, if you're using a cookie tray like I am, you may not want to put all of the wine at first in because it might be a little bit too much. So let's take a look. I'm going to put it to the side here, around the leg, but not on it. And there you go. So it actually looks pretty good. We might be able to get all of it in there without putting too much. Wonderful. Okay, so we just got the roast in the oven and it's going to cook at this 425 degrees for 15 minutes. Directly after that, set the oven to 350 degrees and roast it for another 60 to 90 minutes depending on the size of your roast. I usually end up having to roast it for about 60, maybe 70 minutes, but basically until the temperature inside is 135 degrees Fahrenheit. That gets you a nice medium rare. If you want it to be more well cooked, of course, cook it a lot longer. Right as you're cooking it for those 60 minutes, you're going to want to baste it. You do not want this to get dry. So go ahead and baste every 15 to 20 minutes that the roast is in there. And if you see that the wine has really dried up at the bottom, go ahead and add some more. But after that, you have an amazing piece. But I'll meet you here in about an hour and a half and we'll see what our last steps are. So about an hour and a half has passed. I needed a little bit more time. My oven is a little bit colder than I'd like it to be. But as I mentioned, it was going to be anywhere between 60 to 90 minutes. And it's time for us to take it out. I think you're excited and I am excited. Let's see what it looks like. Wow, that looks delicious. It has a lot of amazing color, some great caramelization. It smells amazing. Now, as you can see from the bottom of my pan, there's a lot of overcookedness and a lot of burning in the cookie sheet. That really is because it is a cookie sheet. If you have a roasting pan, it works a lot differently and the wine doesn't sort of burn off as much. But what we're gonna do now is if you have a roasting pan, let's take it off of that actual pan, remove the pan and then tent it. But if you're using a cookie sheet like me, you're fine as is, and we'll just go ahead and tent it like so with some aluminum foil for about 15 to 20 minutes or until your inner temperature says 145. So after resting the meat for about 20 minutes, I've transferred it over to a cooking. So after having rested the meat for about 20 minutes, I just transferred it over to a cutting board and I cannot wait to see the final outcome. Let's see what it looks like now that everything's been done. It's really nice and easy to slice into. Ooh. The outer part will be a little bit more well done. And as you get further into your slices, you'll see much more of a medium. On the bigger side here, that's a little bit meatier, you'll see much more medium rare. So if you've got people coming over that want medium to medium well to rare, you're gonna find pieces all over this cut that will service those people. Oh, see how we're going here? It's getting a little bit more pink, definitely more medium. Let's get a few pieces on a plate and see how this tastes. So for Easter dinner, I plan on pairing our lamb with a little bit of this fresh mint jelly. So let's snag a tiny taste. Okay, so I just made myself the perfect bite. Are you ready? I am. Oh, wow. The meat is perfectly seasoned, really well cooked. Even the more medium to medium well pieces are very juicy and flavorful. This is gonna be amazing, and I'm so excited to put it on the plate and serve it for dinner. I hope you all have a fantastic holiday and a wonderful dinner. Bon appetit, and thank you.